if Gakko slaps Morgan around, everyone's going to be like, wait a second, Gakko should have been above him in the All-Pro. But it's a regular season award.
It's a regular season award.
Regular season. But
also,
you can't help but think it, though. When you're seeing someone get blasted.
You're going to be thinking it. I'm going to be thinking it.
Sometimes even the players will type in all chat, you know.
This is your All-Pro?
Yeah. Hello and welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia, Season 10, Episode 18. Tickets for finals in Arizona are available. The dates are Saturday, June 13th and Sunday, the 14th, 2026. Spring Finals, Arizona University's Mullet Arena. Cloud9 and LYON are already qualified for this weekend. And we're going to find out who the final team to compete in Arizona is going to be.
Either FlyQuest or TL.
This weekend. It's going to be super exciting. There are both single-day and two-day tickets that are available. Please click the link in the description to get yours.
Yeah, I think finals is going to be a banger. I think this weekend is going to be a banger. I mean, our first week with all the top four teams, both went 5 games. I think any permutation of these top 4 teams playing against each other should be really, really good. So I think this weekend is going to be super fun. I think finals weekend is going to be super, super fun. So definitely don't miss out. Get your tickets now. Hi to everyone in chat, because this episode is being streamed out on YouTube and Twitch. So welcome to everyone who's going to be watching this on YouTube and on Twitch as well. And if you guys were watching this last weekend, I hope that you saw this funny moment with Gryffinn where we did a comms listen-in, because this was
inspirational.
In his inspirational speech for Cryogen, he's like, Cryogen, if you're nervous, and you're like, oh, he's going to be like, just trust yourself and, you can do it. And he's like, don't trust yourself, trust me, because you got a team of 4 fakers to your right.
He's like, look to your right. You got Quad, you got Gryffinn, you got Gakkos, you got
Big G,
you got Masu. Yeah. That's the other context to this clip. Our amazing production is going to put the actual Gryffinn speech in there, so you can listen to it and be inspired yourself too.
I'm so anxious, bro. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Bro, makes sense you're anxious, bro. I know why you're anxious. It's playoffs. You've never been here before. But don't worry. The big G's, Masu and Quad, bro, we have been here before. We played against the greatest in the world. So when you're nervous, just look to your right and see the big G's on your team, and you don't have to feel nervous. It's like you look to your right and you see fakers on your team.
Bro, just trust yourself. Bro, just trust yourself.
So when you see and you look to your right, you see Masu, Quad, Gryffinn, Gakkos, bro, just know it's a free win, bro.
The other context to it is at the beginning of the day, Gryffinn came in hyped up, and he was telling Jat that they have new nicknames, and he wants to be called Big G, and that there are in fact 2 Big G's on their team. Gakkos is also Big G, and then we're a little confused. We're like, "What do you mean? There's 2 Big G's?" And then they interviewed and asked Gakkos, and Gakkos was like, "Nah, Gryffinn, you're not the Big G. You're not the Big G or whatever." But it was a super endearing moment, and I always loved Griffin's energy, and they're super on the new nicknames now, and the inspirational speech just kind of was the cherry on top.
I heard that they 1v1 to see who's Big G for the day or for the matches or whatever. So it's actually so funny. I mean, their team is just such good vibes. They are so easy to cheer for because they're the youngest team in all of Tier 1. They've got actually a lot of young players that are very exciting. They have the NA talent with Gryffinn in the bot lane, and it's just a really fun team to watch. I mean, they're super scrappy. They have really good hands, and they fight teams nonstop. They just try to hands check. They try to take these 1v1s, these 2v2s, these skirmishes and stuff. And I think that paired with Griffin's personality and like how funny some of the guys on their team are, just makes them really easy to cheer for.
Yeah, super fun to watch. I don't know. My early season power rankings aren't great because I rated them a little low.
Last.
I did because I didn't want to put any extra pressure on them. I know they would have felt bad if I rated them too high.
The future is now.
To it. So it was kind of like, I don't want to take too much credit for their success. But I was helping out.
Very humble of you. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you got to do it to motivate them. I like Gryffin's speech though, because like you said, it wasn't exactly the motivational speech that you would expect, but I feel like it is actually super effective for taking the pressure off. It's not like, you got this kind of deal. It's just like, doesn't matter what you do, we got this. And so then it's kind of like, okay, pressure's off. Like, it doesn't matter what I do. They're going to carry. So, yeah, I like that. I feel like that would make me feel better if I was Cryogen listening to that.
Yeah, true. It's just like, relax. We're going to carry you. I did also like, though, because they spliced in Quad. Because while Gryffinn was popping off, Quad was like, trust yourself. He was trying to say,
he's like, ignore this idiot.
He was like, just trust yourself. You're good.
Yeah.
And Griffin's like, no, don't worry.
Don't trust you. Trust me.
Believe in the me that believes in you.
Believe in the me that believes in me. I don't believe in you. I'll carry.
It's actually just so good. And then I got to interview Gryffinn at the end of they also after they freaking 3-0 blasted them. And he's always so funny because you can literally like follow his Gen Z TikTok brain. Like he's zooming around answering the questions and then like, wait, what did I say? Turn around. Oh yeah, these guys are really easy. Oh no, next week's gonna be super easy too. They're almost even easier. Yeah, thanks to the fans. And it's just like full of energy and it's super excited. And I honestly, we're not biased at all as casters, but I kind of want them to be one of our representatives to MSI so that the entire international scene gets to enjoy some the FlyQuest flavor.
Yeah, they're really fun. Cryogen also did an interview with Sheep Esports after this series, and they kind of asked him about him and Masu and their duo, and also about the Gryffinn clip. And he was saying that whenever he has something on his mind, he just always goes to his teammates, and they usually give him good advice because they have a lot more experience. And he said, "I trust my teammates a lot. Just hearing reassurance, airing out how I feel usually helps, and they always try to lighten the mood and calm the nerves." And it's like that is the like serious side of, I think, of the value of what Gryffinn is doing, right? Is because it's like. Like what he's saying is ridiculous, but it's funny and it just like will relax you, right? And lighten the mood. And having those good vibes on a team, especially in a moment where it is like a stressful moment or a tense moment, matters a lot, right? So I do think it's cool to have those kind of players on a team that are going to be good for a laugh, especially if they can do it like after you just get completely stomped in a game and like comms are dead quiet or whatever. If someone can make everyone laugh and kind of like break the ice again, that's worth a lot.
Yeah. I'm definitely, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I'm rooting for them a lot now as well, just because obviously they're new, but also what I really like about this team is that they haven't had the normal trajectory of a team where, they're like either just good until things get bad and they never really bounce back, or like they start really bad and then ramp up, because they kind of did both of those things. They started successfully, and then during the playoffs in Split 1, they kind of, got run over by the top teams. And then you thought they might implode a little bit. I know some people didn't rate them too highly coming into this split, but they've ramped up again, which I think is super cool because especially just the vibes that Gryffinn has, like you were saying, being funny, not taking it too seriously, but, I think just realizing it's a game and you should have fun, but also, you want to win. So I find like it's really easy to root for because it seems like they know how to win. They also know how to like overcome problems that they have. And so, yeah. I hope they do well.
It's incredibly important when if you're trying to be the best and you're dedicating almost all of your waking hours to something, then you need to have it be fun and enjoyable also, because you're spending all of your time doing this.
Or you burn out.
So I 100% agree. It's really important to have like that fun factor. So that you can fully focus and continually improve. And they have improved and learned from their mistakes. And we can also see how the rest of people have rated these players, because this episode, as you can tell, very special with our layout here. And our gold tablecloth, because this is the Kia All-Pro announcement.
It is the Kia All-Pro announcement. So we're going to be talking about first team, second team, and third team for Kia All-Pro. And we've got the ballots. We've got the results. This is the first team for the Kia All-Pro. In top lane, C9 Thanatos. In the jungle, Team Liquid Alienware's Jose Diodo. Mid lane, Lions Saint. Bot lane will be Lions Berserker. And support is C9's Vulcan. So pretty good little variety there, split between three teams.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, it's good variety, and those are all players that you kind of would expect, at least, if not number one, number two for those positions. So I think the voters did well on that one. Let's see how well they did on number two here. In the top lane, it is a Morgan jungle inspired, mid lane quad, bot lane Masu, and support Isles. Honestly, good Kia All-Pro second team as well. What you got, Meteos?
Yeah, I mean, these teams are looking quite stacked so far. So for the third team, we've got in top lane, Fly Geckos, in jungle, Blabber, mid, APA, bot lane, LYON, and support Core JJ. So I feel like this might be the All-Pro with the most team variety. It's a lot of the times you'll see like, okay, there's a clear first place team and they'll just, have 4 or 5 of the people in the first team and then going down the list. But it's really mixed this time.
I want to talk about support first because you touched on variety, and there is someone that I think should have won for support. I feel like who he deserves to get All Pro, and this one actually came down to the fan vote in the ballot. So it was all the way down to the fan vote between Core and him, and the fans did vote for Core's second team All Pro. So that I believe did make the difference. But I feel like who he got snubbed, and I do think this is one of those ones where, no offense to Core. Core is an incredible player. He's been amazing in the league for a long time. But I feel like who he had such an impact in Sentinel's game. Remember, this is a regular season award. And he was a part of so many of their wins, having big individual performances. We heard so many of the comms listen-ins. He is piloting the team in these big moments. And I just feel like individually he played so well. And so it is sad for me to not see him get rewarded with the All-Pro team. Core, obviously a great player, but I just don't feel like he was as deserving this split.
Yeah, I literally voted for who he's second team even. So I was definitely very surprised that he didn't make it on at all. And for it to come down to the fan vote means that it was tied in the points from all of the normal voters. So it was incredibly close, and who he was tied right there with Core until the tiebreaker. But who he not only was his play insane, like a lot of the Bard games that we had from him, like he is saving losing games for their team, for Sentinels, where they were losing a lot of these early games, and the only reason is because he gets out of lane, then he goes helps Hanbok get off a bunch of ganks, and they're invading jungle and they're making plays on bottom lane too. So yeah, I thought he was very big individually, and then you add on the comms that we had with the comms listen-ins where he's shot calling, and then he's also keeping people positive when they're down 8,000 gold, and then they're still able to win that one. So yeah, I definitely agree on support. That is a big,
and that would have got Sentinels in there too. So that would have been some more diversity.
I did feel like that one was a big snub. As far as all the rest of them, I didn't feel like the snubs were as big. Like there's definitely arguments, and you can put in the fourth position, but
I think it's really cool though that Isles got on there. Like Isles, I think when people were talking about the creation of LYON and this team, people are like, yeah, they got like such a stacked roster with Berserker and Saint and Inspired, and then it's like, yeah, and also they have Isles and Dokla, right? And like especially I feel like people were excited about Dokla, at least like even if they didn't think he was like a superstar or whatever, they're really excited about him as like a player and a person because he had a really good individual performances coming off of Worlds, and obviously like all the Ni Hao Dokla here videos from Worlds were hilarious too. So I feel like Isles was kind of the odd man out a little bit as far as roster creation, where people weren't really that excited about him. He's played mostly on teams that weren't as successful, and I feel like when you get to join a team like this that is expected to be really good, it is such a big opportunity because if you play really well, then you can really change the way people look at you. But also, if you're on a team that is stacked and everyone else is kind of like a bigger brand or a bigger name than you, and the team does not do well, guess who's getting blamed? Right? Like people are going to put that on Isles. And so there is, it's kind of like that double-edged sword, but I feel like Isles played really, really well. Yes, it is an Enchanter meta, but I feel like he actually plays, even in just some of these Lulu games, like it really stood out how well he's actually perfectly layering the CC with wild growth knockups into polymorphs, and like, timing his CC with like interrupting dashes with his wild growth, and just like little things. His positioning is good. His vision control is really good. I feel like this guy has played great this split, so I'm happy for him. I would assume he's never gotten All Pro before.
That's probably a safe assumption.
Yeah.
Because like you said, he's been around, but definitely was not on top teams at all. but I really like his story as well because he's somebody that you pretty much always see consistently very high in the solo queue ladder. He's one of those pro players that is just constantly grinding, and I have found that's always a really good indicator for like which players, you know, are going to do the best in pro. It's super rare that there's a player who does well without putting time into solo queue and grinding it, or vice versa, that there's somebody who plays a ton of solo queue and then just never gets results. So I've always found them to be pretty closely related, and even though it's an enchanter meta, looking at Isle's most played, like he's kind of been playing all different kind of styles. His most played is Nautilus. He's played a bunch of Nico. He's played Bard. He's played all the enchanters. I feel like he's pretty well rounded, and that's kind of how it feels like as a player. Because in solo queue and pro so far, I don't think he's kind of pigeonholed himself one way or another, which I think happens to supports pretty often. You know, some supports do really well on engage. Like they're very good at tank metas, but then maybe an enchanter metas, like they try to do too much, or the opposite, which is, you know, really painful when you have a tank support who doesn't want to tank.
Who's standing behind you in lane.
Yeah, that's never chill. But it's nice to see Isles doing well. I just like the idea of hard work getting rewarded because he definitely he doesn't have the star power of like nearly the same as his teammates. And I think that getting to work with Inspired helped him a lot because Inspired even said when he started working the team, he's like, okay, these guys have a lot of bad habits. They just learned the game the wrong way. And so when you have someone that can maybe correct certain things, because that is always one of the biggest hurdles to get over when you're on a bottom tier team. A lot of the time, the team just has the wrong idea of what they're trying to do. So even if you listen to your teammates, you listen to your coach, if you're not being steered in the right direction, you're actually just not going to be able to improve. You'll have these ideas about the game, things that you can't question, that you'll understand as objective truths. And then you join a better team, they're like, no, that makes no sense. Like, don't do that. And then you can improve a lot. So definitely a cool story to follow Isles' split. And yeah, I hope he keeps doing well.
And he clearly has gained a lot, you know, like you're saying, being on this team with all these good players helping him out. I remember the moment, and it was lock-in finals, the final game of it versus Cloud9, the fourth game. He had his Poppy, and he had this Poppy game where he got player of the game for his Poppy, and this is player of the game when his teammates are, you know, these like superstars, former MVP winners across the board, and it was clear Isles making all these plays with the Poppy support. That ever since lock-in like playoffs, lock-in finals especially, it feels like he has just been on this upward trend and upward path. And so it's really cool to see the very quick improvement with all these really good players on his team. Berserker gave some funny interviews, you know, throughout the year where the most recent one where he was like, yeah, I can finally trust Isles now was basically what he said, you know, implying that at the beginning he could not trust Isles. But now that they have really gotten there, you can see the synergy between them really does shine through. And then for first place among supports, I think it's to no surprise of anybody because Vulcan was absolutely smurfing this split.
Yeah.
And it completely lines up with this award for the beginning of the split. He had this super long stretch where he doesn't even die at all, and he's the highest earning fantasy player for week after week after week after week, while we were you know, doing our little fantasy challenge that we were doing. And so Vulcan absolutely smurfed for Cloud9. He was a big part of why they were undefeated in the regular season.
For AD carries, first team, of course, was Berserker. Second was Masu, and third was LYON. This one wasn't any shock to me that the top three. I feel like, you know, there were some arguments you could be making for you know, who should be second or third. And, you know, I've also heard some people talking about, oh, should Rahel be in there or some like other players that at least that we're going to get a couple votes. But I felt like largely it wasn't that surprising. I do think Berserker definitely is deserving of first team, and I did vote for him. But I will say I did consider Masu because I feel like Masu has been playing really, really well, and I do feel like Masu in lane seems to be able to build like some really big edges. They get a lot of 2v2 kills, and I think it's largely because of how aggressive he plays. But Berserker just feels like that bit more consistent. He kind of feels like that prototypical AD carry, you know, like that's like the blueprint for what an AD carry is. He gets all the farm, he plays consistent, and he's really good in team fights. So I feel like especially alongside the kind of like inspired view of how you should play the game, I feel like Berserker just slots in perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, looking at this list, I think a lot of times the way I think about it is like, okay, who would I want to play with on a team? And like, who would I want to play around if that guy was on my team? And like you said, I think Berserker is just kind of the model AD carry that you want. I don't think he's, you know, worse than Masu in lane either. I think that in FlyQuest games, they're just, they find more kills for whatever reason, but I feel like Berserker still gets a lot of advantages in lane.
Yeah.
He had some games this play where he was just, you know, insanely ahead bot lane. And so he's good at making advantages and also just keeping them. I think he doesn't throw very often, doesn't get caught out of position very often, makes it difficult for the enemy divers to, you know, get on him or shut him down. So yeah, totally makes sense. I feel like he's just been very, very good this season.
Yeah, these are all my votes as well for the AD carry position. So I was pretty happy with them. Maso is just more volatile, and that's something like Inspired said about playing with him. Also, you know, he gets more kills because they're always looking for more spots to be aggressive and get those kills. Berserker is really good for the Enchanter meta too, because he loves playing the hyper carries. So I feel like it's you know, lines up quite well for them. And since, like you're saying, you know, inspired teams, LYON really does like playing a bit slower and then get to those team fights where AD carries can always really shine when you have like a structured team fight. Makes a lot of sense. If we move up then to mid lane after that, Saint, Berserker's teammate, also getting number one. So something that we talked about like a couple weeks leading up in playoffs and stuff. I really had the feeling that LYON had the best carry position players individually, because while Saint has had some blooper plays, and there's some ones where we're mentioning like he's overstaying, after a play on side lane or something.
Yeah, the RA game's the only one that really sticks out.
Yeah, there are still so many really good mechanical plays and clutch plays from him, and I think that he definitely set himself apart from the rest of the mid laners in that way. Because the other two on the list are, you know, Quad and APA. They're very good, but in a much more like team, you know, play for team way and solid way rather than flashy and making super big, individual outplays type of way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna. I actually think the vote was a little closer than I would have expected. To me, Saint is, you know, one of the best players in the league right now, because coming into this split this year, there were questions about how he would work together with Inspired and the rest of his team. And in his past splits, he's looked a little bit tiltable, right? He looks like the kind of guy who he's definitely good, but maybe he doesn't trust his team a lot and will kind of overplay things and make mistakes that way. But I think this year he's looked so much more solid. I think he doesn't try to overplay situations, but he still has an insane amount of pressure. I think he might not be the most consistent as far as, I think he will sometimes, you know, get a little over aggressive and die. But at the same time, compared to every other mid, I feel like he's the guy you would want to do something clutch, right? It's like, if you're in a situation where your mid laner is your only hope of winning, I would want Saint doing that every single time, because just his laning phase, he's really aggressive, gets a lot of leads, and he does a lot with his lead as well. I think he moves around the map a lot. He carries fights well.
And one of the big advantages, I think, of Saint compared to a lot of the other players is in our league, I think he's the most well-rounded as far as champion pool. Because I think, you know, when people talk about Quid, they're like, well, he's not as good on the control mages, but like he's really excellent on the melee champions. When they talk about like APA and Quad, people are less comfortable with them on certain types of champions. I mean, Saint can play a Kali, Silas, Yone. He can also play the Rise. He can play the Azir. Like he can play, I think, a wide variety, which I think is always just so advantageous in pro, right? It makes it really hard to actually, you know, paint someone into a corner with a draft. So I feel like he's been fantastic. And to me, he definitely was the best mid laner in this split. And you say this year he's been way more consistent. I feel like it's even just more recent than that. It's like this split, because if you think about the start of lock-in, LYON had a horrible start in lock-in, and a lot of that was Saint throwing at the end of the game. That was kind of the story. It was like these throws or these him getting caught or whatever. And I feel like his improvement from lock-in, the beginning of lock-in to lock-in playoffs was very evident, and then just from lock-in till now was also very evident as well. So I feel like he's getting better a lot faster, and it's exciting to see, because this is a player that was a pretty hyped prospect, and it's just fun seeing them kind of like live up to that.
I like your point a lot about his champion pool too, because I didn't even think about that when I was going through it, but it is true that because when you look at the other mids in the league and on this list, I think Quad kind of has a style of like, he's probably one of the quieter out of the top three, right? I think that he's the guy that does well on like control mages. He's not bad on other stuff. He can play other champs. He had a really, really good Aurora, which is rare, but like his Cassio is phenomenal. But I think he's going to be your stable guy. I don't think he's most of the time going to be like, winning or losing you the game on his own, but he'll always do his job and do what his team needs him to do. And then I think APA is kind of not exactly the opposite of that, but I think he's the guy that you want him on like the somewhat weird stuff or the
I feel like
playmakers.
his engaged champs.
Yeah, exactly. His Galio, his Annie, you definitely want him on that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think he also can play Azir. He can play the other stuff, but I don't know. I feel like somebody who can play the mages and the engage, but also the melee mids, like Saint's Yone is so disgusting. Like he genuinely does stuff on that champion that I have not seen anyone else do. He just perfectly buffers all of his abilities in team fights to, not get CC'd. Somehow manages to just find the carries every fight. I don't know what game it was. In their last series, it was just like every single team fight, he was just killing the Lucian Milio by himself as Yone every fight. And it's like, he makes that look easy, and I can tell you it's not easy to hit backline with Yone ult and do it in a way where you're not just getting CC'd and killed. Yeah. So his consistency and flashiness on that champion is so ridiculous. Like I don't think anyone should give him Yone, honestly. He's just way too good at that champion.
Yeah, and then there was a big drop off after the top three for the votes here. Quid got a couple votes, and I am glad that Darkwings got some shout outs. And did get at least a couple points for himself too, because as far as like expectations for mid laners, Darkwings had fairly low expectations because people usually look down on North American mid laners, but he's been really good and really solid. So happy that he got a little shout out there too. I don't think that like he should have like made it onto the list over one of these other three, but
he would have been my fourth. I would have had him above Quid if I was voting top 5. I would have had him fourth.
Yeah, and because Quid's expectations were up here, Darkwings were down here, and then their performances. Like Darkwings was very, very consistent. And if we even dip into playoffs, then when we talk about last week, then we'll see.
We will later.
But we will. Jungle I thought was going to be extra spicy, both because there's a cool race, inspired the king of the jungle, the former MVP of the entire league of both North America and South America, fighting against Jose Deodo, who came in on Team Liquid and was absolutely smurfing, especially at the very beginning of the split, like very clearly best performing member on Team Liquid. Those two battling at the top, but then also North America, we have a lot of good junglers. And it's really cool here. I think the spread of people who got votes, we got 6 players who got points out of 8 teams on this one. Spoiler, only top lane had more, and it's because single one vote went to a couple other ones. But we have a lot of very good junglers, and so even the people that didn't make the list, Gryffinn, Hombach, and Contracts all had some pretty big moments throughout the split at different times. And of course, you also don't think like if you take the entire split into account, Gryffinn is going to make it because he had those games where he got absolutely blasted by Blabber and Inspired. But then you see the growth over the split and, culminating with the mega Nasus carry game. So thought it was really cool. Again, like a lot more shout outs here, but How did you guys feel? Did you think that any of these other ones actually should make it on
To top 3?
As far as I saw some people voting Hambach #1 from some of the teams.
So I'm just gonna say it because
Yes.
I mean it's so I thought the top 3 was correct. I think that to me there wasn't really room to move them. I think Gryffinn has a future as an All-Pro. We're seeing that development. I don't think he was better than any of those guys. But I will say I feel like there was some gamesmanship going on in the voting because Lions coach Rainover, who voted, did not put Jose in the votes at all, and Spawn didn't put Inspired in the votes at all. So TL didn't everyone knew it was going to be between these two junglers for first team All-Pro and potentially for MVP. We don't know what the MVP voting is. That's going to be revealed later on. But this is the Kia All-Pro race for first team All-Pro for jungle. We knew it was going to be between these two guys for most of the split, and both coaches did not put the person first, second, or third because you can't vote for your own team. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
That's one way to put it.
Interesting, huh?
I think it's some gamesmanship for sure. And it's always interesting because if you can't vote for your own team, so Spawn can't vote for Jose, but if you want Jose to win, you don't want to give points to Inspired, right? So sometimes teams will do that. Maybe they don't think that they are doing that, and they just feel, hey, I have a different view of it. Sometimes I will say. Players vote almost exclusively on scrims, and sometimes scrims are very different, right? Hambach, I think, got first team All-Pro from Spawn, but a few people had.
There's another, there was at least one other.
Yeah, I can find the other one. But there was a few. So yeah, it was Spawn voted for him first team All-Pro, and then Sajed as well. And so there's a few people that kind of view it differently. And a lot of times when I talk to the players, they're like, well, this is what happens in scrims, and they don't really watch a lot of the stage games, so that might be what this is. This could be their honest to God, this is my truth, this is what I believe is the best. But it does feel like, when your rival is going for it and you don't give them any votes, it feels like, okay, you're trying to
I will say
tip the scales a little bit.
At least they both did it. So it kind of cancels each other out. If only one of them is kind of scummy about it, then it's extra weird. But
Inspired didn't vote for Jose, but Core did give Inspired a vote. So that's because each team gets a player vote and a coach vote. So it's usually, I don't know how you guys did it when you were on teams, but most of the players that I've talked to, they say either my team doesn't care, so I just submit my own thoughts, or they have a representative and the player just asks everyone and then they vote together. So I don't know. What was your experience when you were on your team side?
I think definitely my teams were just we don't care kind of deal, because it's weird that you can't vote for yourselves, because normally people, they would rate their teammates above other players. So it's just saying of your competition, who's the best. And I think a lot of the time too, it's not even that easy to tell how good somebody is versus a lot of times the players especially will feel like their opponents are they'll be he's just getting put in a good position most of the time, right? It's his team helps him out a lot. So mid laners would probably sooner say that other teams' junglers are better, right? Because they're I'm just always under threat kind of deal. Or their support's just coming mid all the time. This guy's not good, but I'm just getting perma-ganked.
Yeah, and so it's just their mid laner. He's just so oppressive down here.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of the time it wouldn't be as serious. And I don't know. In the players' credit, I feel like it is really weird. Just voting for other people, it's this guy's just way better than me. Smile. It's
well, that's why you don't have to vote against your teammates, because otherwise you'd be basically almost social contract forced voting for your team, which would just make it pointless. And I will say, it is really cool when you are a pro and you get credit from a pro who you respect, right? I think that is a really, really high compliment, and I think that's very cool. That's some of my favorite memories when I was a pro, is when another pro who I thought was a top level player was hyping me up. That always just feels really cool. So that is the aspect I do really like of the player voting, is that it's hey, you can look at the player votes and see that you have the respect of your peers, and I think that is pretty cool for the pro players.
That is a good point. I definitely felt that when I was playing, when other players that my competition and peers or whatnot think highly of you. There's also maybe the other way to look at it, where for Inspired and Jose, if they're not voting for each other, it's they know the other person's good, but it's you're so scared of them that you won't even put them on your list because you're worried they'll be better than you. So it's kind of you can get that satisfaction as well.
Like a rivalry thing, I feel like at that point, you know?
Yeah. I mean, which is kind of hype. I'm down for it. I do think it's funny that Humbot got as many votes as he did because I think he was solid. I wouldn't put him as like one of the top junglers, but I could totally see when it comes to team votes because he's the jungler who's going to gank lanes the most. So I feel like every laner is just like, I hate this guy. Like, why is the jungler always just ganking all the time? You know, go farm your camps, bro. Like, he's so annoying to play against. So I can see him getting points for that. But that play style, especially right now, it's just not that great because it's, you know, like really coin flippy when your plays don't work. Sometimes even when they do work, you end up worse off. So I can totally see he's like the laner's jungler. It's like what laners want to play with, but it's not necessarily the best for winning games.
Also works in scrims really well.
Oh, yeah.
More bloody and people play with less respect to jungler, which is why I could also see him getting more pro votes.
Yeah, I do like that we get a little window into scrims or, you know, what the pros actually value too. Also, I think it's cool because contracts just getting even a little bit of points.
1 point. Who gave it to him?
I wasn't gonna say.
Was it you? Were you the point giver?
No, I had to be Lion or Liquid for sure because
I see contracts from.
I think it's really cool.
Blabber gave it to him, so that's cool.
I think it's really cool because you always start to think about what if scenarios. What if X player that is on a team that the team is clearly not performing, but you're clearly like their best player, or and when they win, you're the reason that they won. You know, people start to think about what if, you know, this player was on that team, or what if, you know, these things could be reconfigured. Plus, it leads into some of the thinking of like Kia MVP, where you could take the position of, well, this is the most valuable player for their team. And like you're looking at some of these games where contracts had like the Olaf game and stuff, and it's just clearly a 1v9, you know, carry mode type thing. So I thought that was also really cool. And it's interesting that it was Blabber because those two have a long history against each other. And this is kind of a vote of that little respect thing between individual players as well.
You know what I always think of when I think of, you know, players on a bad team getting those votes is 2017 summer. On Envy, Lyra got first team All-Pro jungler, which was one of the only times I can remember a team that was just actually a bad team having a first team All-Pro. And it was like, I don't know what their record was, but it was definitely below 500 for sure. And he got first team All-Pro. And I just remember it was like, it felt like any game they won was solely because of him. Like he was the only one doing something. And so I do think it is cool when you can be on a bottom team and still get some recognition. Obviously in this case, it is just the one vote, but still it's cool to see, oh yeah, Blabber put me on there.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, since they have, you know, he has foiled Blabber in the past on different teams in playoffs as well. That's a cool little shout out. Top lane. This is the Giga, you know, everybody agreed on. Thanatos, #1 for top lane. It was interesting that there were also some other, you know, top lane first place votes from some people, but the overwhelming majority is just like, yeah, Thanatos is the best. And like when we talk to pros all the time, you know, in the interviews or off air or anything like that, they're always, Thanatos. It's interesting that like that's the Cloud9 carry. And you know, clearly the, you know, the best player for, you know, for that. So
he got 24 first place votes, and then there's only 5 other votes. 2 of them are from Cloud9 who can't vote for him. So that means 3 people who could have voted for him didn't put him first place, but nearly unanimous, like very close.
Yeah. And actually it is interesting because I remember we were talking about, which ones are like the most clear or what's the biggest discrepancies between first and the other ones. Vulcan for support got 27 first place votes.
Yeah.
As well. So there was the Cloud9, the roles that were good for Cloud9 or the best for Cloud9 were clearly everyone is aligned where, you know, Vulcan and Thanatos were the real big standouts in Cloud9's in their undefeated regular season. So I thought that was really cool. But top lane, the cool one for me is the 3rd or 4th because I thought Dokla and Gakos were really close. I was going back between both of them. And Raz was trying to make a case for Castle if you could like chop off DSG Castle from Lion Castle and separate them since he like lost all the games with Lion, but unfortunately can't do that. But Castle still ended up getting a couple points too.
And Castle had some amazing lanes on DSG, but even then, like his team fighting wasn't great, which you can blame sometimes on the team and like and the situations in the game, but also at a certain point, it's like you have to show me that you can carry with that lead at some point for me to vote for you. So he wasn't in my top 4. I did put Morgan second, but honestly, as the season went on, I was feeling like more and more like, oh,
His
maybe
stocks were dropping.
Maybe Gatkos and Dokla both should be above this guy. Like, had we been including like playoffs and gone a couple more weeks and whatever, I don't know. Like, it feels like Dokla just kind of kept winning, and you're seeing a lot of value from him. And I feel like Gatkos has been playing better and better and looking really, really good on these carries. So I feel like Morgan's stocks are definitely going down. Thanatos still clear number 1 for me, and I didn't feel like it's very close. But definitely Dokla deserving of a shout out because I feel like he's been playing well, and I feel like Dokla a number of times has been on the periphery of All Pro. I think it was I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but there was one split where I thought he deserved it so much to get on All Pro, and I remember voting for him, but I think Impact I got it that time, so I felt like it was kind of like a core Huhi situation where Dokla, I think, if people aren't sure who to vote for, they're going to vote for like often the bigger name.
A name that in the past has held.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes that's worked against Dokla, but it's cool to see him up there.
The interesting thing, as we are going to talk about the games that are coming up this weekend for LCS a little later in the podcast, is that we actually will get one of the situations where this is a regular season award. Everybody knows that, but when Gatkos plays Morgan this weekend, coming up, if Gatkos slaps Morgan around, everyone's going to be like, wait a second, Gatkos should have been above him in the All-Pro. But it's a regular season award.
It's a regular season award.
Regular season. But
also,
you can't help but think it, though. When you're seeing someone get blasted.
You're going to be thinking it. I'm going to be thinking it.
Sometimes even the players will type in all chat,
This is your All-Pro?
Yeah, they're like, first team All-Pro. People have definitely used that as flame.
Yeah.
It sounds like something APA would type.
Yeah.
Maybe only him.
He definitely would. But yeah, congratulations to all the Kia All-Pro winners. We are going to take a quick break, but then right after that, we're going to be back to talk about last week's LCS series and then the banger series that we have coming up this coming weekend. We'll be right back.
Dude, this lobby is kind of comfy. It feels different.
If this is different, I like different. I'm staying right here.
Are you guys serious? We're about to get into game.
Emily, let us enjoy it!
You guys need to lock in. Maybe this'll help.
Oh no, not already!
Welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia. It is time to talk LCS. We had a quick week this last weekend.
The quickest. I think that felt to me like the quickest we've ever had.
Yeah.
We were out of here by 4 p.m., even a little earlier than 4 p.m. some of these days.
Done.
I was like, holy.
The sun is shining.
2 3-0s.
Yeah.
I didn't expect both of them to be 3-0s.
I expected one of them to be a 3-0.
Yeah, the second one
it was.
with TL and Shopify. But we should start with the first one, the FlyQuest versus Sentinels, because it was interesting when we were discussing last week's episode and we were talking about predicting for this one. We were mentioning, and Rob Moore's got keeps bringing up, hey, why does everyone keep favoring FlyQuest? We keep on beating them. And
Not
we're like,
this time.
I'm sorry, Rob. I still feel like they've gotten so much better.
Yeah.
I didn't think that it was going to be a 3-0 though. I thought Sentinels had more in them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I predicted 3-1 for FlyQuest, so I did think FlyQuest were going to win pretty handily. Part of my reasoning was the reliance for Sentinels on these key picks, and I feel like we got to see that a little bit. I thought FlyQuest drafted pretty intelligently. I think taking away the Skarner in game one was really, really good, especially because it was actually a good situation for the Skarner. And I just liked how FlyQuest drafted for Gryffinn in general. I was talking about this last week where I felt like we could be pushing towards this meta with, double Knight's Vow and all these tank support items, because I just think those items are giga OP right now. And they were just drafting all junglers for Gryffinn that can just abuse these items, right? It's like his tanks in 3 games. We've got the game 1 Skarner, and then we had the game 2 Shen, and then game 3 obviously he was going AD because he was Shyvana. But but I feel like Shen, Skarner, Sejuani are all 3 that are super easy like abusers of this, and then there's like champions on the periphery that are less common, like we've seen Inspired play, Warren and various things like that. But I just felt like it was a great pick away from Hambach, and I really liked the build.
Yeah, I was talking about how early Gryffinn had jumped on the new Skarner too, but he still went Protoplasm, even with Heartsteel getting the buffs. He still like rushed the Protoplasm.
It's not a support item, buddy.
He loves the Protoplasm. It's so cheap, and it does give an insane amount of survivability. But it's so cool how that FlyQuest it makes their team comps work together, because Gakkos is so good on carries. It allows your top laner, go wild, pick whatever you want for any top lane matchup.
Yep.
And then when jungle can fill in like whatever, Gryffinn can play carry and Bessa jungle, or he loves playing like these tanks with super cheap, support items,
Vandal pipes.
Yeah, all these things. So it really does help out a lot when you've got a player who can fill in whatever roles need to kind of like round out your comp. So FlyQuest, they certainly felt like they had a big upper hand in draft because they've been so willing to play these champions that their individual players are really good at and really like. And it felt like they really drafted into their players' strengths and thought about how to counter Sentinels ahead of time and take away stuff that they would even like to use. And just
Caitlyn was banned all 3 games, which Rahel normally owns on.
It felt like they just absolutely kind of dismantled them.
Yeah, I kept thinking about the Night's Vow thing when I was watching as well, because I thought game 1, to me, actually felt like Sentinels was in a better spot to win the game. But like the whole time I was watching it, I was like, if they just got 2 Night's Vows, like one for Hell, one for Darkwings from, Ornn and Nautilus, or hell, Lee Sin could probably get it 3rd or something as well, just because it's so strong. To me, I thought they would probably win the game because Ryze is a great champion to put a Night's Vow on. He does so much damage, and he just needs to not die, and he kind of wants to get in there. But I don't know, it felt like they were just kind of getting stat checked in fights and just not being able to find clean engages. And to me, I feel like FlyQuest meta read coming into this series with the new patch was stronger for sure.
And Masu was crazy. Masu was actually so good this series.
He giga-blasted Rahel.
He was 26, 2, and 17 across the 3 games.
That game 2 was absolutely criminal.
And Rahel's not even bad. Masu and Cryogen just absolutely stomped them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of AD carries have Rahel as one of the top 3, top 4 AD carries. Like, a lot of people have a lot of respect for Rahel. But yeah, I mean, Rahel to me, by far, his best pick was Caitlyn. That was perm ban the whole time. The Bard didn't come out till the last game, so it was kind of interesting. Like, clearly, I thought that if Bard was left up, it would have got grabbed earlier. But I feel like FlyQuest saw the Bard as a Caitlyn Bard pairing, not as like just a lone Bard. So they just kept the Caitlyn banned out. Varus was banned the whole series, and they were slamming in the 2v2. The Ezreal game was more of a slow burn, but it was like Masu's fed, and he became the real threat. And Ezreal, it's not a great tank killer compared to some of these other champions, but by the time you're on Shojin and Endless Hunger, you just get so much free ability haste from 25 basic ability haste from your Shojin, and then Endless Hunger when you're on 4 items is like 30 to 40 free ability haste. Masu had over 100 ability haste for his basic abilities, and then you have the cooldown refund on your Q every time you hit a Q. And at that point in the game, every Q you hit, your Q is back up. It's just like you're just firing him out. And then he's actually starting to blast the Ornn, and he's killing frontline. And then game 2, they brought out this Lucian Melio, and Sentinels picked the Ashe Seraphine into it, which I found very surprising, because my view on it has been that the Lucian Melio is the counter to that. But I know, some coaches and stuff were telling me, no, they think it's 50-50. But then other people are like, no, Lucian Melio super stomps it. Either way, they clearly thought it was skill-based or that it was fine. But they got slammed in that match.
Yeah. I think another thing with these drafts is you have to take Fearless into account, because even if Sentinels thinks it might not be the best matchup, you still have to also consider, well, hey, if we don't pick it here, then we might have to play against the next game. And so even if it's not like the best Ashe Seraphine spot, if it's like not one of your favorite comps, but you really don't want to play against it, then maybe you just take it anyway. And it's probably not supposed to be this bad of a matchup, because I thought the way that Masu and Cryogen played this was super smart and not at all what you see people do. Because what Lucian did level 1 was, I mean, I think most people who've watched this lane or played against this lane know that it's just so strong level 1 because Ashe slows them and then Seraphine gets the root on her E, pretty guaranteed. And so Masu just hugged the top side of the lane away from the bush and just started pushing. He was just spam autoing the wave. And so then Rahel and Huhi couldn't do the normal thing where you just both sit in the third bush and you come out and you just start all-inning them. And so it honestly felt like they were confused, like they hadn't seen this strategy before because they were kind of like standing there saying, hey, like, what's going on? Why is this guy not walking into us? Why is he hitting the wave? But Masu just seemed so much more knowledgeable in this matchup. He knew exactly to all in, like, immediately after that. And it just, I don't know, it looked like such a bot gap.
Oh, it was a bot gap of epic proportions in this game. I think everybody watching, because you kept on seeing, 2v2 kills just popping up. And Rahel had he was stuck on 2 or 4 CS for a very, very long time. And so then, Gryffinn can then play to that side and Gryffinn uses his Shen. I really like this because it allows a lot of these FlyQuest styles where they go super aggressive pushing bottom lane and aggressive topside matchup. So usually you're like, I feel a little bit worried when I have a Jace top into a Scion top because a lot of the times the Scion's going to just farm and be chilling and then be very useful for your team later. But if your bottom lane and your top lane both can just keep up pressure the entire time, playing for turret plate money, and then your Shen has Stand United available for whichever one you try and attack, it did feel really, really good for FlyQuest. Plus, they drafted in a world where teams across the world are first pick blind picking Cassiopeia because how strong she is right now. Quad, who's a player who, upon joining the LCS, everyone's like, never gets this guy Cassiopeia. This guy is a Cassio one trick. Never get this to him. And it's in prime time Cassiopeia meta. They also get Cassio for Quad. I was like, oh, this is a draft gap as well as a bot gap. And so this game 2, that felt like this was a super slammer in FlyQuest's favor.
We had we have this kill clip as well from bot lane where they had already at level 1. I mean, they forced Rahel to base with 1 CS, after you were talking about. They got the early push. They're kind of trying to play the bush, and then they realize they can't really get to Lucian, so they start poking at the Melio and stuff, and it's like, then once they spent their spells, Lucian just runs at them with W and the the buff from Melio. They forced out to heal the barrier, and then when he came back, they did a really clever thing where they kind of fake based and then wrapped around behind them through the tri-brush and came in behind and were able to get the first blood onto Rahel. Yeah. And after that, it's just so cooked.
They ganked their own lane.
It
was genius. The bot lane just ganks the bottom lane, wrapping around the tri-brush. That was the beginnings of a very, very successful Lucian Melio game.
I will say bot lane was obviously the biggest gap by far. But one of the actual pretty noticeable gaps I actually thought was on the other side. I thought that Darkwings was actually kind of owning. I thought Darkwings was really good in all of the games. It felt like you're going through these games and every time there's just this giga lead in bot lane. We had multiple 4,000 or 5,000 gold leads from Masu over Rahel. But it felt like all the time, Darkwings was the hope for his team. He was building some big leads over Quad. I felt like he was laning well. I felt like he was team fighting quite well. And throughout a couple of these games, he really was the only one that it felt like had much of a chance to actually get them back into it. And I was really impressed by him and his development. Quad is a player that I have a lot of respect for, that is really consistent, really strong in a lot of these matchups. And even when they gave over the Cassio, like you're talking about, which is supposed to be kind of this death sentence, Darkwings was doing great on the Orianna matchup, and he played, I think it was a Rise game, was it, in game 1? If I recall, that he was giga ahead on, and the Victor, he was kind of their only hope in the Victor game because their bot lane was getting pounded, it felt like, and their MF is getting dove mid on repeat, and so I was actually really impressed with Darkwings, and to look good as a control mates player in a series where your team gets swept, I think is not easy. I think a lot of those times you just are farming even, and then you get slammed every team fight and you're 0-20.
Yeah, this is why I was really glad he got the some points for the All Pro voting. Got the shout outs there because he's been really good in a lot of situations, even when, like you're saying, they're losing. So they
were losing.
they definitely lost pretty quick.
Oh man, yeah. The bot gap was just, it was so rough. I feel like Rahel, when he got those votes for All Pro, I was like, are you voting for Rahel or Rahel's Caitlyn? Because I think on Caitlyn he's really good, but on other champs, I don't know. I just didn't see it, the split. I feel like his drop off from his best champion to like pretty much all the others was like extreme. I think, I don't know if he just spams Caitlyn all the time and that's like his most comfortable champion or what, but yeah, it wasn't great.
Yeah, it's interesting because, the other super memorable games from him, I feel like are like on Varus, and Varus is also getting permabanned. So he, definitely, targeted and definitely
successfully
crunched down. Yes, very successfully targeted there. Again, props to Masu and Cryogin though, because we've been singing their praises pretty much all split long. About how aggressive they have looked in the 2v2s and how well they have executed, especially with how young Cryogin is. It seems like just yesterday we were talking about how young Masu is and him coming in, and now, Cryogin with the promotion, like basically straight from tier 3 onto the team, and has had a lot of growth and a lot of success early on, and super cool stuff for FlyQuest. That was our first 3-0. The 3-0s did not stop there though.
No, they did not. We had TL versus Shopify. This is the one that I think people all kind of thought was going to be pretty one-sided. And the one caveat was like, ooh, but like what if Contracts go Super Saiyan, right? And it just didn't happen. This kind of went, I think, largely to expectation. I will say Game 2 felt like by far the most competitive of the series. Shopify Soul Laners were actually doing really well in that game, and Contracts got way ahead on the Kazakhs, and you're like, okay, maybe they could actually come back, win this game, and start to even out the series. But when you lose a game like that you're so far ahead in, and you have all the edges, it's pretty cooked.
I feel like we should talk about Game 1, because Game 1, it wasn't an action-packed game, but Zinni's build, oh my god, that felt like this guy might need to be investigated for what he did this game. So that was a game where, I don't know, this kind of thing happens occasionally in League. It seems like it's more in solo queue than full-on pro play, but basically it's like somebody sees a potential build and then tries to over-optimize for one thing. In this case, it's Jack of all trades. Someone got the idea that like, hey, wait a minute, like Doran's helmet gives 3 stats, upgraded Stork Boots gives 3 stats. Now I just need 4 more stats somewhere. Oh my god, Shirelia's Reverie. And it's like, okay, dude, you got your Jack of all trades, and now you're a Galio with Doran's Helm, Stork Boots, Shirelia. It's like, cool, you got your Jack of all trades, but like that doesn't make the rest of your build like not terrible. And I don't know, man. That was hard to watch for me. I don't know. Like that build just seems so unplayably bad, and it's like you're not tanky, you don't do any damage. I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely was rough, because I also thought he was not using the utility that well, like the Shirelia is active, and he kept getting into bad spots where him being squishy was really apparent, because you're getting into a bad spot and you're caught and you're like flashing out and then still like being in the fight and re-engaging. This fight around mid, there are several fights around mid where, he like starts it out with a Justice Punch and like does he engage, but then flashes out, but then they're still trying to kind of fight it, and then the rest of the team his team leaves, and then he doesn't have flash to leave and he dies also. And so all of the early deaths were him. So it also made it look even worse, even if the cook was to be successful. Like we were trying to cook with the new mandate on the last episode. And yeah, Galio has 3 abilities that apply CC, so they would benefit from it. But again, you're squishy as hell. The new mandate, it doesn't give you any like tank stats or anything. And so that's on top of he already had the Shirelias and, Jack of all trades build that you're talking about. And so he was already squishy, and you're more squishy. And, it just, none of it came together for him. But I did like that APA was, in the analyst to explain at least the thought process.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a good cook and not a good execution, that was at least one part for it.
I will say, I I think we're going to see it more though, because I've seen other pros that are spamming this in solo queue. I know
on Gallia specifically, or other champions.
A number of champions. So I mean, not the exact same build always, but like Showmaker, I know was doing TLAW with Mandate, because I think so. I haven't tested it myself, but I was told that the TLAW R counts as a CC ability.
Yeah,
because
it does. Hit people.
Exactly. So like you get the reduction on that. So I've seen he was spamming Mandate TLAW, so you get it obviously on the flick and the R, and then he was also doing Galio.
What about the rock field? Does the E count because if someone gets knocked over, it can stun? So I feel like it should be 3
So
abilities.
then it'd be triple. And then Galio, I know he was doing Rocket Belt Mandate on Galio.
See, at least Rocket Belt gives you HP too.
Yep. I'm not saying he was doing the full thing, but I saw that his TLAW was doing that, and I was like, oh, it should be 2, but maybe it's even 3. I wasn't even thinking about the rocks because the stun should count as well. And then I see him playing it on even like a zillion and like all kinds. People are just trying these builds on a lot of stuff. So I think it will not be the last time. I see him doing Mandate Shirley's Doran's Helm Syndra.
This is solo queue though, right?
Solo queue.
Okay. Yeah. So
you're trying.
So I'm just saying. People are cooking it. So I don't think he's going to be the last chef to bring it out on stage.
Also, to me, if you're doing it on Syndra, who's like range, it is a little different than if you're indexing so heavily on.
I'm not saying I think it was good.
Look, yeah,
I'm just saying other people are doing it, so it may become meta. I wouldn't be surprised because the items are very cheap and they're very efficient. That game I think was a horrible game no matter what he built, because I think like you were saying, he was in dumb spots all the time and chain dying.
Well, I don't know though. I don't think he dies if he has like any kind of reasonable build. If he had Hollow Radiance, if he has Rocket Belt, if he has like Storm Raider Surge, Merc Treads, anything. I just think this whole package. So I do agree that I don't think it's terrible on everyone. I think, you can optimize your jack of all trades with some of these new things, and it could be good in some situations, but not this one. Like Galio going super squishy, but also not doing any damage. To me, it's just like, what are you doing? Like
I did, and I said this like a couple times during the game. Even when I think, something is bad or something's not working or whatever, I do appreciate when teams that are expected to lose try to cook. So I was like critical, and then I'm like, don't let this stop you from cooking though and trying, because I would rather watch you cook something and lose than if you just played normal standard stuff and lose. So then when they also I'm trying to look up the next game was a game.
You're trash at cooking. Don't just make me a steak.
I mean, there was the AP Zhao in game 3.
Yeah, they did, yeah. He kept on cooking.
Okay, I liked that one at least because AP Zhao actually is strong. Like he's statistically one of the highest win rates in solo queue right now. Yeah. And I've played it a little bit, but I'm not particularly good at it. This champion's so hard to last hit with. He just does no damage. And he just always leaves the minions at 1 HP. Was my experience at least. But that's probably user error.
Yeah.
But I mean, either way, he heals so much off of his passive with the AP ratios. And then there's also the static interaction where you proc it on a wave.
Like full heal off the wave.
Yeah, I mean, it procs your passive twice from the static alone if it hits 6 minions. So it does have some strength, but didn't work out this game.
Into Quid, who, as you were saying earlier, is very good at a lot of these melee assassins, on a Kali who has all this mobility to deal with Xin and get inside his ult if he needs to get inside the ult, or outside if he needs to kite him. And you're just like, this is, I mean, I know Quid has not had a great split or whatever, but I mean,
but
he went 11 kills. I mean, it was 11-0-5 on.
He almost solo killed him as well, like at level 2 or something like that. Like it was looking tough early and late. Yeah, he gets inside the Crescent Guard. Then he would lose 80% of his health in a millisecond, and then pop the Crescent Guard and then just die. And so yeah, I think it's worth trying things. Clearly, they were big underdogs, but it is funny. When I talked about Quid with people going into playoffs, people were like, you know how to draft against Quid. You just don't give him a good Akali angle, and and then you got the Akali, and you're like, okay, maybe we shouldn't give him an Akali angle because he was looking pretty nasty on it as per usual. But I at least appreciated that Zinni tried something. It didn't work either of the times.
I actually think AP Xin Zhao could unironically be good, especially if you just take it early in a draft and then you hold as a flex, because into ranged champions, he's kind of oppressive. That's why I think he's been finding a lot more success mid than top or jungle, because his downside is that he's not actually that good in all-ins because he doesn't have enough damage to kill you most of the time. But
He's
once
so squishy.
Yeah, he is squishy, but he has a lot of sustain. So you play him against a ranged champion who's not killing you in the all-in.
Control mages and stuff that you can heal it all.
He has very high engage range too. If you just land a W on them, it's like they can't really be in range to hit you without at least you having the chance of Wing them. And then you go in for a big trade, you heal it all back up, and you know the ult's very effective against ranged champions as well. That was not the case here, though. I liked a lot that Quid went Ignite, because we almost never see Ignite mid in pro play, and it's something that in the back of my mind I've always been curious about, especially in those metas where people are just running like Yone with Doran Shield second win, and you just see them farming under their turret with 100 HP for like 5 minutes straight in lane. I'm like, what if you just ignited them and they died trying to do that? And so APs and Zhao, not the exact same thing, but he does have a lot of healing, and then Quid just took Ignite, and it's like, wait a minute, like I can't heal through your damage when you're igniting me. So I did like that little adaptation from Quid. I think Zinni could have also ran Ignite, though, because that's what I've seen in solo queue most of the time with Xin Zhao. It's like, he doesn't do a lot of damage, but all of a sudden you stack an Ignite on them, and like it can turn some of those lost fights into one fights. So
yeah, it's definitely a cool pick, and I agree. I think it could fit. I was playing some Flex U the other day, and I played against a mid Xin Zhao when I was playing Orianna, and that was not fun. I felt like I could not move his health at all. So I definitely could see it in some of these matchups, but it's always that thing of like, sure, the matchup is great, but like, does your team comp look like trash with it? And that was kind of how I felt, honestly, about their comp in this one, where it was like they were so melee heavy. I feel like even if the matchup is good, your comp still has to work, and it can be tough sometimes when you are like that melee heavy. I mean, maybe in this specific matchup, you know, the comp could work fine, but it was like their comp was Sion, Sejuani, Xin Zhao, Pyke, and Mel, right? And it was like
they picked this one for Kobe. They said, "Yo, you want some cook? We got you. Yeah. We're not going to win this game, but we'll put on the show."
Like when I was looking at this, I was like, I don't know how this mid lane matchup goes. Maybe he can beat Quid, but I was kind of thinking to myself, who the hell is killing Morgan? And you know, it's like, who is going to kill this Zehen that you're trying to dive through with 4 melee champions, whereas Zehen is just cleaving you all?
With a Seraphine on the Zehen's team to keep him alive.
So I was struggling to see the vision on this one for sure, but it was
you gotta really
win.
Okay, one shout out I can give to Zinni though is that he played this game really loud and proud and died all over the place to hide to do it for Seos, because his Pyke performance was so bad. Like, I'm not good at Pyke. I'll admit that. But I'm also not picking it in a pro game. But I can tell you, Seos is also not good at Pyke, because he wasn't running Hail of Blades, which every Pyke runs. It's like what gives you so much kill pressure. Like Ignite or Elexu was like a 4% lower win rate on him, and he just every situation was just like played wrong. You know, he was just like missing ults. He was like missing E-flash stuns. It was a rough Pyke game. He did not look confident at all on this champion. And if there's one champion that you have to be extremely confident to play, it is Pyke. He's, you know, if Bard for a while was kind of like the protagonist support, it's like you only pick him if you know you are him on the champion. Not so much nowadays, but Pyke, he's for sure that, right? Like, I don't think there's even a champion in the game that's more just like, hey man, I'm going to 1v9 this thing. Like, just pass me the ball. I got this kind of deal. But yeah, there was some fumbling going around. He wasn't obviously the only problem with the team. There was quite a few of them, but yeah, I do feel like that one kind of went under the radar because of what the rest of the team was doing. But I had my eye on it a bit during the game, and it was not very clean.
Yeah, Pyke definitely, if you are not successful with it, looks so useless later in the game. Does not get a lot of value. And he felt like he had to go QSS because of the Ashe Seraphine in this game too. So that's also like cuts into your damage that you're going to be building a lot too. So Shopify get kicked out of playoffs, but you know what? that just
Got more
leaves us,
playoffs.
it leaves us with a very, very strong top 4.
Yep, the top 4 from the first weekend when they all played. It was 2 5-game series, which were super exciting. And remember, we are back in the Riot Games arena for this coming weekend, and it's going to be, I think, really, really good matchups. There are tickets still available. Sunday is, I think, last I heard this morning, only a couple tickets left. Saturday, there are some tickets left. So if you guys want tickets, definitely get
And that's
on,
the FlyQuest day. If you want you want to see FlyQuest, get your Saturday tickets.
Yeah, so definitely get your tickets because they are going to be sold out here pretty soon. So it should be really fun. This is going to be our last weekend at the Riot Games Arena because then, of course, the weekend after this is going to be Arizona for finals. So get your tickets for that too. It should be a lot of fun. And there's going to be a link in the description if you want to buy tickets for either this weekend or for finals. But of course, those matchups coming up on Saturday is going to be Team Liquid Alienware versus FlyQuest. I think this one should be so fun because these teams have a lot of history. It is with previous rosters, but they were battling each other, in finals after finals. It felt like big series after big series. And then FlyQuest lost 3/5 of their roster. And you thought, okay, well, that's kind of the end of that because FlyQuest isn't going to be competing for a championship maybe right away. But here we are once again. Only one of them can go on to finals in Arizona, and only one of them will have a chance to go on to MSI and to win the LCS championship. So this is such a big series for both these teams.
Yeah, especially because TL were spent a lot of money to reinvest in this team and rebuild it, around Jan and Core JJ, and they're expecting big things, and they haven't made a lot of the benchmarks that they wanted to make. That's an organization that really did take EWC qualifiers seriously and really wanted to qualify for them. And guess what? FlyQuest beat them twice in that. And so there is definitely a lot on this. If FlyQuest also eliminate them from playoffs here, that would be super big rivalry.
I think we see changes from TL if they lose this series.
Yeah, even between in the middle of the year is usually rare because it's hard to find other people. But if they could find a suitable replacement, I could see that happen.
I wouldn't be surprised just because I think the expectations are astronomically high for this TL roster. My view of it is that this TL roster was sold as this is going to be a super team. This is going to be a team that is winning or in the finals or competing for championships, for sure, right? When you go out and you get Quid, that is kind of the expectation. And Inspired was on the table, but they said they weren't interested in him. They liked Jose more. They thought he was a better fit. And Jose has actually really performed very, very well. But the team has not lived up to the expectations that I think they had for it thus far. Of course, they could still win this whole split and then the story completely changes. But I think the pressure is really on for TL and for these players. And for FlyQuest, not to say that it's not high pressure, not to say that these players don't want it, but FlyQuest as an organization, I feel like they're going to be pretty happy with how they've done already. This was supposed to be a kind of a rebuilding year and see how things go. But this team is in the mix for sure. And I feel like, we already saw them go 5 games against C9. They easily could have taken that series. This is a team that is in the mix just with all the other top 4 teams. I wouldn't be surprised if any of these teams could win the title.
Yep. I actually don't think I would want to be Team Liquid in this series just because the whole vibe of the team feels so different as far as Liquid. Like you're saying, super high expectations. I think they're going to be feeling incredibly pressured during this series because they actually have to win this one. And even in the upper bracket against LYON, when we saw them, it felt like both teams were really pressured, but especially Liquid. They were kind of making some uncharacteristic mistakes, which is normal for that kind of super high stakes situation, right? It's called high pressure for a reason. It affects how you play, no matter how mentally tough you are or whatnot. So I think Liquid's going to have way more pressure on them with these high expectations. Probably they're also knowing that there's going to be changes if you don't win, right? So because not even making it to the finals weekend would be a massive disappointment for their team. They're obviously wanting to win the whole thing. Whereas FlyQuest, I feel like they're probably going to have a similar approach they had last week. They're just going to be confident in themselves, having a good time. But I think the big difference is if FlyQuest lose, they're not going to be upset about it. They're just going to be like, all right, well, we did pretty good. There are no expectations. So I actually think it might be hard for TL just due to the like external forces at play on this one.
Yeah, plus just considering how much FlyQuest have improved. I know this is sounding really FlyQuest sided, but they really have just made leaps and bounds improvements in their focus and shot calling, their macro. I feel like their drafts are in a really good spot too. That being said, for the Team Liquid side, they're looking quite capable right now too. So I expect this one to be a banger. I'm hoping we get 5 games for each series again this weekend.
We easily could.
I think I could see either of these teams, winning and going to Arizona. So I think it should be a banger. Both of them have made adjustments to their drafts too. I thought TL had been so predictable for so long. And then versus Shopify, again, it's a 3-0 and it's Shopify, but it did feel like they had put some good thought into some adjustments, and they kind of they do the thing where I play around you knowing that you think you know what I'm gonna do, type of.
Okay, I think I'm following.
Yeah, type of thing.
You know that I know that you know that we know that I want to think that you think that I'm gonna.
Exactly. So maybe TL have some cooking going on of their own.
Yeah.
And this one should be an absolute banger, especially the jungle matchup here with Jose actually getting first team All Pro. Mm-hmm. And Gryffinn really being the young upstart challenger, Big G, coming to take down that first team All Pro. Mm-hmm. That could be an opportunity for that all chat.
Yep. I think it's going to be a really, really good series. I do think there's a lot more pressure on TL because of the reasons that I stated. I feel like Quid needs to play better. If this team is supposed to be winning the championship, I think we need more from Quid. I just don't think he's been nearly good enough for the expectations for him coming into this year. He's not playing like himself. Yes, that is partially meta, but Saint has looked better on Melee champions than Quid has. Maybe that's because he is able to open more opportunities for himself by being stronger on the other picks that people have to leave the door open or something. But I feel like Quid has just not been playing as well as I want from him. The advantages that I really see for FlyQuest is I think TL has been quite a slow team. As much as we have heard a bit that they want to play more like the LPL style, I feel like they've looked kind of slow and inactive. And FlyQuest feels like a team that wants to fight you and force plays and look for outhandsing. And I feel like TL hasn't really been a fast-moving team. When I think back to their loss against LYON, Jose talked about how they weren't really kind of capitalizing on the moments when they needed to be aggressive. And I think that's something that's going to hurt you against FlyQuest. If you let FlyQuest make the first move, I think that really does benefit with them because they are going to look for aggressive plays. They are going to try to do that kind of stuff. And I do like FlyQuest drafting a lot more. I think TL did make some adjustments, coming in against Shopify. But specifically, I think that the ability for Gryffinn to play all these tank junglers, I just feel so strongly that these tank support items are super OP, and if he can bring out Shen and Skarner and Sejuani and these style of champions and be successful on them and still have pocket picks and aggressive picks, things like the Shyvana and the Nasus, I think that's really hard to draft around. And I feel like Jose is best when he is on kind of the aggressive playmakers, and I don't think they really want him playing that defensive style. So it's going to be interesting, but I do feel like draft definitely favors FlyQuest, and I feel like the aggression favors FlyQuest. Just need to see TL actually have some step ups from their big stars to be able to actually show kind of what we expected. Because I feel like Morgan started off incredible, but has been on a bit of a downward trajectory. And I think Quid has not been where we expect from him. But these players at their best, I still feel like TL should be the best team in the league, but they just haven't shown it.
Yep. I think that one thing I'm wondering is, does Gryffinn play Lee Sin? Because I think that's, when I'm looking at the junglers, that's one of the things that's kind of different about him is Gryffinn has all of his weird picks that he'll pull out. But I think Lee Sin right now has kind of seemed to just be the best champion, at least best jungler in the game right now. And Jose loves that champion. So I think that could give him a bit of an edge, or at least, dictate how you have to draft, maybe they just keep it banned kind of deal. So I don't really know if Gryffinn plays it.
Is no Lee plays him this year at least.
So I'm looking at his solo queue account, and in the last 2 weeks he has played 10 games of Lee Sin.
Okay.
at a 40% win rate.
Zero played in his career all time, but he hasn't been obviously in pro for very long, to be fair. So,
He has even 18 hours ago, he played a Lee Sin game. So he's at least playing it in solo queue.
But it is one of those games, to your point, where it's like, you need a bajillion games of Lee Sin to actually be really good. And if it is powerful, Jose has a nasty Lee Sin. So that is definitely an advantage. I do wonder if Skarner is his answer, because they let Hambach have Lee Sin and then just did Skarner early as the answer there. So that is something that I'd be kind of curious if they're willing to give it over. But I also just feel like this is Jose's best champion, I think, by a lot. When you look at his career, it's his most played by so much. Like, he has 69 games of Lee. His next most played is 37, right? So he has so many games of Lee. It is his like best win rate champ, over a certain amount of games, and I feel like he just looks amazing on it. So I wouldn't be mad at them banning it out anyway, even just like as like a pocket pick type thing. But I would be interested to see if he has an answer, because I feel like if you haven't put in a ton of games on it, it makes more sense to prepare a counter rather than try to play it.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of the nice thing about Fearless, though, because if this wasn't Fearless, that would be way bigger problem for draft if there's an OP champion, because it's just like, we have to just perm ban him the whole series or just deal with it or lose to it the whole series.
Yep.
But with Fearless, they're like, it's one game. Hell, maybe I'll take him and I'll get him out of the way. I'll do my little pseudo ban. I'll just pick him, run it down, and no more Lee Sin this series. So that was something that was coming to mind, but obviously it's only going to be one game, if that. So probably not going to determine the entire thing. But both these players have kind of been on this support tank jungler play style, which just seems really strong. I think that, to me, that feels like how the meta is shaking up. With enchanters were nerfed this patch, but I don't think they're necessarily like not going to be playable. And obviously with the Knight's Vow. So I think we're going to be seeing some hyper carries. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, you could have Team Liquid try and emulate that, but it would be so much worse, because Impact it feels like their tank player is in the wrong role and opposite. Morgan. And they had Morgan go Ornn and Shen. So he starts out with the Shopify, at least the Shopify series again.
Yeah.
With two tanks for the team. And if you have Jose, like you're saying, he feels so much more effective. Lee Sin, Nefiri, Nocturne, Pantheon, all these things to get in there, make a bunch of kills. And especially if you want Quid to perform, I feel like you need those types of junglers to help your mid laner perform.
It's tough, because it's like, if we're saying Quid needs to play the melee guys that go in and Jose needs to play the melee guys that go in, I kind of feel like that. I mean, Core is a great enchanter, but I always feel like historically, TL has always looked better when Core also plays the melee guys that go in. But it's like, maybe that
all melee guys that go in.
Exactly. Everyone can't be the melee guy that goes in, right? Or
can you?
Or maybe you do play full dive with Kaisa and you just full sender or something. But that hasn't been what they have been drafting for.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, because like the Jose point on Lee Sin is a good one. That is definitely a big downside of some of the brand new players, is they haven't played through all these metas. So when the meta changes, it can hurt them, right? Cryogen has been really good on the enchanters. But I know when I was watching Gryffinn stream the other night, and some people were asking questions. I was asking some questions and so on. And, he was saying even that, like, if the meta shifts in support, it could hurt us, because Cryogen is so good at these enchanters, but he hasn't really played through, engaged support meta. Like, he went from tier 3 to tier 1, and he's like 18, 19, right? He hasn't played all these different metas. So if the meta does in fact move towards hard engage, and they're playing, like Rakan and Nautilus and Rel and all this, Core is going to be way better at that. At least he should be, right? So I do think that could be an edge for TL, if they could kind of like cook up some ways to kind of force the meta away from comfort, for these guys.
I would expect that's TL's best plan. Just target Cryogen, not necessarily because he's a weaker player, but just there's not like that many enchanters in the meta right now. There's Seraphine, Lulu, Karma,
Milio.
Milio, and there's like
Core played Sona.
Yeah,
as well.
He did pick it, but you can run out of enchanters, especially with Justify Fearless. On top of the fact that you can just ban stuff, and so I would expect TL to try to make it into melee support meta, because I think Core is. he can play enchanters, but I think he's a lot better at the melees just because he's the kind of guy who's, I think, very smart with vision and understanding, like, he understands what information the enemy team has and how they're probably going to use it, and then he's able to find good angles like that.
Yeah.
And that is way more important when you're on Alistair or Nautilus or Rel than when you're on, like, Lulu.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because you could either try to like ban that stuff out, or you can try to do the other option of counter picking. And I know some supports feel like Blitz is really, really good in some of these support matchups and playing, you know, some more aggressive lanes. If you're going to play a ganking jungler and you pair it with, you know, Rel or Blitz or Rakan or Nautilus or whatever, and you just try to like blast the Seraphine or the Sona or the Lulu or whoever they're picking. So it should be good. What are you guys feeling for predictions for this one? I feel like we're all kind of leaning towards FlyQuest, but I really do feel like it's a close series.
It's one of those ones where it's 50-50. So I could easily be convinced to go, Team Liquid side.
My biggest feeling, the more we talk about it, is just still I like FlyQuest drafting more. So I'm going to favor them 3-2. But I do think this should actually be a really close series, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. Like if Quid steps up, they could absolutely slam them.
Yeah. I don't know. The more we talk about it, the more I feel myself going back and forth on it. But I'll probably stick with FlyQuest just because I think that. Like the external pressure on Liquid is actually going to hurt them a lot. It kind of felt like watching them in the upper bracket that they were being affected by it. And also, I just think, like you mentioned, their solo laners haven't really looked as good. I think like if FlyQuest can pick around Gakos and get him in good spots, he's just looked really strong and capable of carrying. I think like Gryffinn has a very wide champion pool, and he's kind of leaning into these Knights Vow junglers. Some concerns about support. I feel like that's where Liquid should probably target, but I don't know. I think I would say 3-2 FlyQuest.
Yeah, I mean that's where I am right now. I like I said, I could be convinced to go over to TL, but my default is for FlyQuest 3-2. And I just they are continuing to improve on the things that they had as weaknesses before, and multiple of the players all tweeted out after the Sentinel series, and they're like, yeah, they were worried going versus Sentinels, and this is one of the teams that has really had their number. So I think that's going to give them a lot of like confidence.
Yeah, C9 and Lion, I think, or sorry, C9 and Sentinels, I think, were the two teams that had a winning record against.
Yeah, the only two.
Said. Yeah, exactly.
Is that, and so they really had it on their mind, and so kind of getting over the hump of being able to beat Sentinels. We'll see about the next step.
Yep. Well, the other series on Sunday, which, like I said, as far as I know, the tickets are basically sold out. So get a ticket ASAP if you want one, is going to be the upper bracket finals. And this is a really big one because top two go to MSI, and this puts you into the grand finals, which means you go to MSI if you win this series. C9 has not been to an international since 2023 MSI. So it's actually been a long time at this point. So this would be a massive series for C9. It's kind of crazy to think that it's like years and years since they've been to an international, let alone, won the trophy. So, for C9, huge stakes. And they are going up against LYON, who is the team that took them out in spring, that kind of ruined their big run. Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, I associate spring
the first
with
thing.
The first thing.
Yeah,
the first
yeah.
thing, lock-in, exactly. And now it is spring. In Split 1, took them out in lock-in. And it's wild because that is the only series that C9 have lost in NA this whole year. They won all the way to lock-in finals, lost to LYON. Then beat LYON at the start of the split, then won all the way to the upper bracket, and now they're playing LYON again. And as much as, I'm sure it was nice, you got a little revenge in the regular season, doesn't really matter unless you do it in playoffs, because that is the story. That is what's on everyone's mind for C9 is that, are you going to choke in playoffs or can you get the job done? It's kind of MSI or an LCS title or bust.
Yeah, and Jack really wants to get back to an international. They have had so many successful regular seasons during this drought of no internationals that you're talking about, this multi-year drought. So it would be huge for the organization. It'd be huge for the fans who are used to, the longtime Cloud9 fans are all used to having international performances, because for so long, they had a long history of being
They were our best international
best
team.
performing international team, even when they would qualify as like our third seed or whatever.
Yeah.
Then they oftentimes would have
Get
the
to
better
quarters or
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
semis.
So C9, I definitely agree. It would be so huge for the org, for the fans, if they could get this win. And if you think back to the lock-in finals, that was a very tense finals, which had a lot of all chat going too, especially between APA and Saints. And it came down to that the Annie versus Ari matchup where Saint picked the Ari into Annie, and then APA started out by typing to him, and then Saint solo killed APA with the Ari into Annie, and then he's like typing back to him, "How do you get solo killed in this matchup?" And zero answers, and APA was silent for the remainder at that one. So yeah, like you're saying, even though in the beginning of spring, the very first series that they play, you get a little revenge. After that series, though, even in the on stage interviews, I believe it was Vulcan that was on stage, and he was like, "Yeah, it's nice to get a win and know that we've improved and like where we stand, but."
It's not even. They stole your car and you stole their T-shirt. It's not the same thing.
Exactly. So they definitely need to have the win with real stakes and real big rewards behind it is going to be so much more meaningful.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time predicting this one. I don't know. I kind of feel like LYON is who I would favor, but not in a really one-sided way. I just think that. To me, LYON seems a little bit more well-rounded, especially Saint. And I do think the last time they played in that series you mentioned, APA actually took a mental blow from that one that took him a while to recover, just getting solo killed by Saint. Because I like, it's as funny as this to say, like, APA loves doing his all chat, and like I think most players just mute him. I think Saint's one of the only players that doesn't mute him, and then the fact that he doesn't mute him and he responds to him, I feel like that might throw APA off a bit, because I feel like he was genuinely shook after he got solo killed by Ari like that, and then he started making some bigger mistakes. I think that, like we were talking about earlier with the mid lane vote, I think that Saint is very good on a lot of stuff, especially a lot of champs that are strong right now. I think APA's got his picks, but in a 5-game series, I think you need to be able to win with a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. And I would kind of give Saint the edge there overall. I think for what C9 has going for them is, they're a solid team. I think that Thanatos over, I assume their line will keep playing Dokla. Maybe they could bring out Castle, but that would be weird. I think Thanatos will be really solid. I think that's, a challenge for whoever's playing top. Yeah. So I think C9 can win, but I think that because it's best of 5 now, you have to be able to win with a lot of different things. And to me, I think that LYON's more solid, because when C9 loses, sometimes they'll pick stuff like they brought out Senate a couple times, and Sven has looked very shaky on it, like having low soul count and just kind of like dying in really bizarre ways. So I'm leaning LYON a bit on this one.
I feel like top side is clearly C9 favored. I think bot side is clearly LYON favored. I think mid lane is definitely LYON favored, but I don't feel like massively. And I feel like jungle also probably LYON favored, but not massively again, because I think Blabber's actually been playing really well. I think these last couple of weeks, APA has been playing really, really well. And I feel like APA has had some very impactful games, especially on these engaged champs. He's found really good flanks. I can think of, multiple Annie games where it felt like he was making the game-winning play. Obviously, the teleport in game 2 in their best of 5 against FlyQuest was massive. But even in their series against TL, I think the previous week, finding a flank on Jose, who had been running over Blabber and turning around the game there. So I feel like APA is not nearly as well-rounded of a player as Saint, but I think he is really excelling at some of the champs he excels at. So I think, he could definitely make his mark on this series. My biggest concern for C9 really is Sven, which I feel bad saying because I love Sven, and I think his good games are really, really good. And sometimes that kind of gets ignored in the equation, where sometimes he does have these really dominant games. But it feels like when he has a bad game, it's really bad. And when he makes a mistake, it's a big mistake. I think back to some of these games where it's like, they're winning the early 2v2, and then he runs back and he knows, that Vulcan's roaming somewhere else, and he loses the summoners and dies, or he gets caught and it costs them a game, or
goes up to auto the Skarner. And
exactly,
then Skarner
flashed on
him and
like these kind of mistakes are so punishing, and it is tough because you can be playing really well, and I think Sven is playing really well for 95% of those games, but as an AD carry, generally in a big moment, if you mess up, you just lose. Like in a late game team fight, the AD carry often is the team fight, right? It's like, if your AD carry messes up and theirs does not, it's GG. And I feel like Berserker has been so consistent. So that really is my kind of big concern is how will Sven play? If Sven plays to the best of his ability and he has a really good series, then Cloud9 are fully capable of beating LYON. I think it really could happen. But I am a bit concerned for how Sven will perform in the series because I think Berserker and Isles have been incredibly consistent, and I think that Berserker has clearly been the better team fighter.
It was interesting listening to the pros podcast because it seems like C9 have been doing really well in scrims lately because all the pros were feeling a bit Cloud9 sided. And something they also touched on that I agreed with is, and everyone, whenever you watch LYON, you're like, oh, wow, they do play and the Inspired really slow and controlled. Like they'll give up any objectives if they think there's even a chance that it's a bad fight for them or not a good timing. And if you look at the average game times for LCS, they for the regular season were longest average game times, tied right there with Sentinels that also play a really slow game, and then only slightly faster in their playoff series. So. LYON definitely do have this kind of very slow, methodical. We're going to give it the fights that we don't want. We're going to, wait till we have our, conditions all met to get our, plays ready. And the pros were citing that as a possible weakness versus Cloud9 with how apparently Cloud9 have been performing recently in scrims. So little things like that do make me kind of want to switch the other side, so everyone's not always in agreement, and I kind of want to ride that Cloud9 side, especially because everyone's also against them with the narratives of playoff times, you're gonna choke during the ones that matter, and this type of stuff that is kind of building against them. It makes me kind of want to be I want to go with that side.
I think even if they lose this series, I think they will go to MSI. I think this will be the split that they do break it. And I think we'll see Cloud9 back international. Because I have been hearing they're playing really well in scrims, and I do think this team is a very good team. I think all the teams in the top 4 are capable of winning the championship, but Cloud9 has 2 chances now. They just have to win one of their next 2 series, and you're going to your first international in 3 years. And I think they're going to get that done. I would not be surprised at all if they win this series, but I am still favoring LYON. I think Inspired has had Blabber's number in big series in playoffs. I think that, when you talk about meta changes and stuff, I feel like LYON has some additional flexibility, especially in mid lane. And I think we have seen LYON show us a blueprint for dealing with a really dominant top laner, and I feel like how they actually beat TL and Lock-In when Morgan was really on fire, and I feel like they can utilize Dokla, who I think it's not really debatable. He's obviously a weaker player than Thanatos, and especially a weaker laner. But I feel like they can utilize picks to cover their weaknesses in a way that I think we haven't necessarily seen that same flexibility from Cloud9, or at least that same willingness to kind of like adjust in draft. And so I just feel like draft matters so much in these best of 5s, and that's kind of like where I'm looking at both these series, where I think it's 2 very even teams, and I feel like I like FlyQuest a little bit more in draft. I like LYON a bit more in draft.
I kind of see it as the flexible, crafty, change for draft type player that's willing to accept that burden is just in a different position on each team. For Dokla, it's definitely Dokla. And then on Cloud9, it's APA, who some of the plays that you are referencing that he's done really well are him, thinking about the vision and playing around for, Meteos was talking about the teleport angle so that they don't see him going that way, or Annie walking up the river and getting access to the back line. He's pulled out the Swain, the Twisted Fate. They actually did use the Twisted Fate well. Yep. Some of our teams, when they swapped the Twisted Fate up the top lane, definitely not as good. But the Twisted Fate mid lane one, play around the gold card ranges, and go for the single target stacking stuns and stuff like that. So I feel like they can try and like APA is definitely not as good of a carry player as Saint. I think 10 out of 10 times if I'm like, I want my mid lane to hard carry us, I'll pick up Saint. But APA could be like the crafty one, and Dokla's like, well, you'd probably rather have Thanatos hard carry.
He can be the crown.
But I'm
to Saint's faker, you know?
there you go. I'll lock that Malzahar in, baby.
Every time.
It makes it really cool that the solo lanes are kind of swapped like that, where you're like, Cloud9's definitely got a better carry top laner, and then LYON definitely have a better carry mid laner. So we'll see. This one, I mean, it makes sense that sounds like the tickets are getting very close to sold out, because this one should be an absolute banger. Lock-in finals rematch. Let's go. See if they pick up the all chat right where they left off. Get some solo kills going down for the drama.
So what's your guys' predictions?
I'll say LYON 3-2, but I don't feel super strongly about it. I could see C9 winning. I think I kind of want C9 to win in the sense of just breaking the narrative of being playoff chokers, because it's always sad when a team just doesn't show up when it matters most. So I hope C9 shows up, but I think based on what we've seen lately, LYON looks pretty hard to beat.
I'm going to make the swap. I'm going to go Cloud9. I'm going to go Cloud9 3-2.
Cool. Yeah, it should be good. I'm LYON 3-2, but I feel like LYON will win, but yeah, I also feel like I feel bad for the Cloud9 players and this choker narrative. Yeah. So even if they lose, I think they're going to go to MSI. I think they are going to break that streak, and I think we are going to see them succeed this split.
Especially Blabber and Sven. I feel like Blabber and Sven have just been punching bags for community criticism. So I think it would be really sick for them to to win, to have some big games. Like you were saying, Sven. He had the Jin game to finish off the FlyQuest series, where he had
smurfed.
He had 16 kills or something
like that, yeah.
And was blasting. So we'll see if they can do it.
It's going to be a really good one, but that is going to do it for this episode of The Dive, driven by Kia. Thank you everyone for watching. Be sure to follow, subscribe everywhere you watch your podcast, and we're going to be back this coming weekend. Saturday we got a banger, Sunday we got another banger, and then the week after that we're going to be in Arizona for finals, so get your tickets.
We'll
see you there
too.
It's going to be fun.